part, right? So that was awkward, awkward in the sense that we're in this series called When God Doesn't Make Sense. And so I just thought, if God can make us wait, you can wait for me too, right? You're just like, actually, I passed Marty back here at the door, she's going, what's up? You should be, it's good. So anyhow, I want to lean into what is going to be our second look at this idea of when God doesn't make sense. How many of you like to wait? Does anybody like to wait? Waiting for the airplane? It's crazy, the stories. Has anybody traveled in the last couple of weeks where you had to, by airplane, where you had to wait for TSA and all that crazy stuff? It's like, it's just nuts. In fact, we were supposed to have a seminar at the Richland County Foundation 3 weeks ago, and the gal who was coming to speak was coming from Birmingham. She allowed 2.5 hours, got there, and yep, she missed her flight, and it was just like not going to happen. So, but none of us really like that. The waiting part is always complicated. We hate waiting in traffic. We hate waiting in airports. We hate waiting on our spouses, right? Those of us that are married, that's like, yeah. Saw some people look, wait, yeah. Hate waiting on the kids, and then more importantly, we really don't like to wait on God. And yet it seems like He makes us do that an awful lot. It seems like in our stories, as we sort of weave it together, as we sit and talk and have fellowship, it just seems like there are moments like, okay, God, so like even the crazy. I called Chuck last week, I just asked Gail, are you back home? And it's like, yeah, because when I called you last week, you were in Baltimore. And we were waiting on word from the consulate to say Andrew and Brenda can get married. Is it going to happen? Okay, that's good. Yeah, that's a good thing, But the waiting part, it's like, how many times do we have to do this? And how many different pieces of paper do we have to get signed by various dignitaries and important folks? And it's like, yeah. But, just to remind you, a couple weeks ago, we took last week off to celebrate our graduates and our young kids and the work that they've done for the last year. But we looked at the life of John the Baptist, and it seemed like in that story, it was really about how God was inattentive. Really, if you were John the Baptist, his journey, sort of welcoming the Lord to the planet, just didn't go that well, because it's like, this is complicated, to the point where he literally lost his head over it. And it's like, well, that wasn't really fair, was it? But on the other hand, life is complicated, and we all have to lean into these things together. We all lean into the idea of praying together and believing and waiting. And if you always are asking that question, I think, to God, is why don't you do something about it? We've all been there. What you can fill in the blank, what it might be in your own context, whether it's money challenges or your health challenges or relational challenges. There was a conversation just this morning about some things about it's just like, okay, we had conversations this week and everything seemed to be okay, and then all of a sudden it's like, it's not even a flat tire. It's like the tires are off the car and the engine isn't going anywhere. And sometimes we're sitting next to it, right? To something we want changed, to something we're waiting on. The idea that it could be our kids or it could be our spouses. That it's really, really kind of complicated. And at the same time, it doesn't seem like God does what we think He should do. But the idea that He is God and we are not is really sort of foundational to our understanding of Christianity. I know for our story, for Lynn and I, we waited to conceive. In fact, that's why our oldest daughter, Sarah, is named Sarah, is because we were told we couldn't have children when we started down this road. And so we went through all sorts of processes, and thank God for medical insurance, because we tried everything we could think to try and then we actually leaned into adoption, and wouldn't you know it, 4 months after we finished the adoption proposal plan to the Job and Family Service folks, it's like, Tess says you're going to have a baby. And so that changed everything for us. And yet, so many people wait to get married, and we wait on the prodigal, and we wait on our jobs, and we wait on healing. I talked to some of you this week where things are in such a way physically for you, you're just waiting on how God might show up. And maybe even you're waiting for someone to come to Christ. And I want us to remember that last week when we talked about, 2 weeks ago, one takeaway was the idea is that you don't have to understand the plan to trust God's purposes. that though we may not understand there's a plan that we're trying to walk through, that we have to understand there's a purpose that God has, and we have to trust that if He loves us, and one of my favorite songs recently has become a song called Good, Good Father, to be reminded, and we've sung it here a number of times, of just how God is our good, good Father, and how He desires so much for us, and yet it's just that things come at us, and if you just think about where you've been maybe in the last 24 hours, in relationships and in conversations, it's kind of complicated. And so as we begin the conversation this morning, we pray, and then I want to unpack a couple things around this idea. Father, we're grateful for life, we're grateful for love, for your love for us. I'm grateful that you called us to be this morning. We're mindful of just all that you've offered us as your sons and daughters. And so this morning, as we just try to make sense of how you work in our world, how you work in our lives, and even as Bill reminded, that in this house, we are just grateful that you've called us to be, and you've given us a purpose. And so together, we just pray that your Holy Spirit would help us unpack what that might mean for us as your sons and daughters. And we just ask that you guide us in that conversation. And we just ask it now, Jesus, in your most precious name. And all God's people said, Amen. Here's one idea I want to sort of lay out at the very beginning, is that with God, a waiting season is never a wasted season. So even when we're waiting on paperwork for the embassy to get it done for a marriage to take place, it creates deeper conversation, deeper trust, if you will. It's like, okay, we know this is going to happen, and we just have to figure it out. Even if you think about the journey of this church and the community, the same kind of thing. And so we need to wrestle with that, though, that there is this idea that there's never a wasted season. In fact, I'm reminded, in the first week I shared, because it was the anniversary of the Joplin tornado, the 5th anniversary, to remind us that God never wastes a hurt. And so if you think about your own story and your own journey, what God has called you to be a part of, and what you've experienced, that all those things have been meant to help you better understand His love for you. And more importantly, what it does is it becomes something that you can offer to others. And I'll unpack a little bit about that in just a moment. But I want to look at kind of a fun story in Luke first, to set up a story in John. And we all know the story of Mary and Martha. Mary and Martha. Martha's, what do we know about her character? Just tell me. What is she all about? She's a doer. And it's like, gotta get this done right now. But Mary, what's she all about? What's she all about? She wants to, what's that? What's that? People, yeah. She's like, no, let's just take time and pull back, and the dishes will get done, and the clothes will get ironed, and all those kinds of things. And what's kind of interesting is we look at that story. In fact, we know that Jesus actually hung out at their house. We know that there was a pretty tight relationship between Jesus and Mary and Martha, and also their brother Lazarus, remember? And I'll show you how I know. I think that's really true. They actually were, invited Jesus over for, pizza and suds one night. It's that kind of relationship where they just hung out and did life together. And so when we begin to look at the scriptures here, we begin to unpack it. I'll look in John chapter 11. We'll start here. Now, a man named Lazarus was sick, and he was from Bethany, the village of Mary and her sister Martha. So the sisters sent word to Jesus, Lord, the one you love is sick. And that right there sort of demonstrates that, their brother is sick, and they don't even have to mention his name. They actually send a text or a message, a messenger to Jesus to say, hey, the one that you love is really, really sick. And so they know that because they've done life with Jesus, that he's going to show up. He's been part of their small group. He'll be here eventually. They're not sure when, but they're hoping that, he'll get here. And they know that because of the relationship they have with him, that they have this confidence that, he's been out doing all this great work around the community there in Jerusalem, in the region. He's been healing people and restoring sight and doing great things. And so they're just pretty confident. But, it's interesting that, I'm guessing that a couple hours go by and they're like, okay, well, maybe the messenger hasn't gotten there. And then a half a day goes by and then the first night goes by and meanwhile, Lazarus is getting sicker and sicker. And it's just like, okay, day 2 goes by and there's still no Jesus. They're checking their watches or whatever, sundials to see, and they just don't get it. They don't get it because they think they're part of the inner circle, that Jesus spent time with them, and yet he's not showing up. And then, there's that point, I think we all get there, where it's like, okay, God, I did volunteer for the Salvation Army. I'm thinking this is what Mary and Martha are saying. It's like, we've been there, we're doing work of the kingdom here, and God, where are you in this? We're listening to our Christian radio in our home. We've tweeted out that favorite Bible verse from YouVersion. That more importantly, that I'm actually serving down in Linden Littles with those 2-year-olds that are like crack babies. They're crazy, and I don't know what to do with them. And yet, day 3 goes by, and still no Jesus. Now, you would think Jesus would know that this is pretty important to Mary and Martha. And so I want to go back to that idea that I just laid out with as our beginning conversation, is that with God, a waiting season is never a wasted season. So what's in that? If you're Mary and Martha, and your brother is literally on the deathbed, what does that say to you? I don't know. I want to unpack a couple things. I want us to think of 2 things this morning to remember when we're waiting on God. And I know some of you are going to be waiting on God even this week because of the things that you're walking through. The first point is this, is that God's delays are not necessarily God's denials. If you've got your worship note, you might want to write that in. We need to see that. We need to wrestle with that. But just because God doesn't show up doesn't mean that he's denying us. And that's a good thing. It's a hard thing if you're on that side of going, like Mary and Martha, like, okay, we really need you to show up because our brother is literally going to die. And yet, if you think about it for a moment, many of the delays that we enter into life, as we look back over them, are actually divine appointments. They're divine delays. They're actually places where God uses those moments, and I don't know what you've learned by hanging out at the Brazilian consulate, they just need to get a better understanding of the processes, whatever it might be, Jack, but those kinds of things that it's like, what are you learning in that? Who are you experiencing with? Who are you talking to? Who are you passing literally in the doorway? And are you sort of leaning into opportunities to love on somebody, to encourage them? And this idea that God has a reason for a not yet, the reason why he hasn't shown up. Now here, verse we'll look at again as we push through this story. When he heard this, Jesus said, "This sickness will not end in death. No, it is for God's glory, so that God's Son may be glorified through it." We know this now because we look backwards, but Mary and Martha didn't know that. And so when you think about it, specifically the last part where Jesus says, this isn't about death. No, this is for God's glory, so that God's Son may be glorified through it. Now, by this time, Lazarus is dead. And it's one of those things where he's really dead. And so, how does that make sense to Mary and Martha? They've reached out to this guy Jesus that they know, and they've invited him in to do what he's done all over the community, and yet at the same time, he's not shown up. It's almost as though if you were them, I think you would be insulted. You'd almost be rude about it. So when he finally does pop up over the hill and knock on the door, it's probably not going to go well. And so it's interesting here in the scripture, Jesus says this, John says this, on his arrival, Jesus found that Lazarus had already been in the tomb for 4 days. Now it's interesting in that context, and in fact, if you get out your KJV, your King James Version, it actually says that he'd been in the grave so long that he stinketh. It's literally the word, that he stinketh. Because, in fact, the ancient Near East had this understanding that for the first 3 days of a person's death after they died, that their spirit sort of just floated around. And it was really, sort of this thing. So it's interesting that the writer, we know it to be 4 days. So we know that Lazarus is he's dead. He's literally dead as a doornail. And so at this point, what's the sense of hope? There's not much. Although I was trying to find a fun clip to sort of unpack this. You've all seen The Princess Bride, and how Wesley goes through to the point where he's almost dead. They were going to drag him around, Do you remember that scene? It's kind of, but it's like that. No. In this case, Lazarus is not mostly dead. He is dead. And so if you're Mary and Martha, your response is like, Jesus, you have let us down. You didn't show up. Where the heck were you? But again, if we go back and realize this point is that God's delays are not God's denials, then okay, let's unpack this a little bit more. And so I love this part. We get to this point. When Martha heard that Jesus was coming, she went out to meet him, but Mary stayed home. Now, I don't know the scriptures, and I'm clear about this, but when it says she went out to meet him, I think this is one of these where she stomped out to meet Jesus as he came, you know. She's marching, and she's got her hands on her hip, and she's wagging her finger and saying, okay, Jesus, if you had been here, my brother wouldn't die. And so there's a sense of angst, and a sense of anger, a sense of uncertainty. And yet what's interesting in the scripture, and we'll come back to it here in a moment, but I just want to point it out, is that she says, but I know that even now God will give you whatever you ask. So in the middle of her mad anger, there's trust. And it's that idea, okay, God, I don't like this. I really don't like this. But at the same time, there's a trust, and I know you're going to do what's good for us. I want to tell a short story here. In 2000, my daughter Sarah and I, that's outside First Presidential, and you really can't see me. I'm up in the upper left-hand corner next to Pastor Rick Boyer. And then next to me is Sarah, but the young man in the ball cap, his name is Michael Runyon. And Michael and his brother Alex is actually the tall young man over in the back row in the middle. Their dad was our judge in National County, in the Common Police Court. And this is 2000. And so we went to Chicago, and that's where I shaved my head, to be honest. I had hair there. You sort of look, it's there, it's not completely there. It's coming back a little bit this morning. But when we got done with the 10 days in Chicago at the end of the trip, I was so changed by that experience, and so changed by the hearts of these young people, and so changed because I had never been on a mission trip. And it was weird because where we served in Chicago, we were on the south side. Everybody say south side. South side, that's the serious side. And we were actually on Ashland Avenue. So this is this weird thing that here we are in this church from Ashland, Ohio, on Ashland Avenue doing ministry to the homeless in this place called the Port Ministries. But let me just fast forward to 2010. So 10 years later, young Michael is actually an Army First Lieutenant. And what's amazing is over that 10 years, I had an amazing opportunity, just in casual conversation and in casual relationships, because our daughter Sarah was connected to that church, to walk with Michael. Not knowing that on July 21st, 2010, while serving during Operation Iraqi Freedom, he would be killed. He was, at that time, was living in Newark. He'd been assigned to the 52nd Infantry Division, 2nd Stryker Brigade, Combat Team, 25th Infantry Division, the Schofield Bat Barracks in Hawaii. And he died in Balad, Iraq, of injuries sustained when insurgents attacked his convoy vehicle while with an improvised explosive device in one of the small villages there in Iraq. You know, it's in those moments where you go, okay, that just really doesn't make sense. Here's a bright young man. In fact, what prompted me to share his story is they've established a golf outing in his memory that's raising scholarship dollars, and they just recently moved it from down south in Newark up to the Mehican golf course, Mehicanville golf course. And so, what was interesting yesterday morning, I saw a friend share his brother who just turned out of the U.S. Marine Corps, wrote a tribute to him for Memorial Day. And in that tribute, he talked about, the title of the tribute was The Power of Story. And you've heard me talk about this, and we've leaned into various ways. In fact, when we've talked about it in different ways, but how our lives, there is a story that is written, that God is writing largely. And you've all walked through, some of you have walked through this over the years with the whole story concept, that there's this upper story that God is writing, and the lower story is the part that we get to live in. And unfortunately, we get to live in that in losing not only just men like Michael, but men and women, literally every day. And then you take into the account the soldiers that come home and push through. The numbers are astronomical in terms of on both ends. Those of the greatest generation that served in the greater conflicts of World War I and World War II in Korea. That we're losing something like 200 plus a day, which is just extraordinary in terms of the impact I think it has on our country. And yet at the same time, young men and women like Alex and Michael, who it is. And it was interesting in the story, Michael as a first lieutenant should have been inside the lead vehicle in protective armor. And because of his leadership capacity, and this didn't surprise me at all, because this is the way this kid, as we were in the south side of Chicago, doing vacation Bible school with at-risk, with just messy lives, kids who were there, who we were the best hope they had for the day, and we gave them the best food they had for the day. That Michael did it with amazing care and compassion, and he did it because he loved Jesus, and he had this amazing opportunity. We had some great conversations through that week, and yet to think that life is lost. Now, in some sense it's lost, but we just came off of Memorial Day this past week, and we were reminded on Memorial Day of paying honor to those who gave the ultimate sacrifice. And I'd like to just share a little video here about one program called the Gold Star Moms and how they've responded to it. So check this out.
My son, our only son, he was amazing. Perfect son. Could have done anything, but he chose to serve in the United States Marine Corps.
My son served in the U.S. Army. He was a military policeman. He was stationed in Hohenstaufen, Germany. He loved his country, and he loved being an American. His favorite holiday was 4th of July, and he was killed on the 5th of July.
So our son was deployed to Iraq. He actually volunteered to go to a more dangerous area. And one day they were out on a mission, and they thought they were going in for a particular reason, but they were ambushed. And our son was in the lead Humvee, and there were 3 anti-tank mines buried in the road, which detonated directly underneath us.
The phone rang on Tuesday morning, and it was my daughter-in-law, and she was just sobbing. And her parents had just gotten there. I said, put your mom down on the phone. And her dad came to the phone, and I said, just tell him he's alive. And he said, I can't tell you that.
Memorial Day is about remembering those who have fallen. But tonight we had an event called an American Gold Star Mother's Day Weekend, where we hosted 22 Gold Star mothers who lost their sons in the service of our nation's military.
And Memorial Day is for that day for me to go to Arlington and stand and look at my son's tombstone. And know that everybody there was willing to give their life for me.
It is not barbecues, it is not hot dogs, it is not a family get together, it is a solemn holiday where you honor those who lay down their life for our nation. I am very proud of my son. And to me, he's my hero.
So I share that partly because in some regards, we pause as a nation and we reflect on those who have given their lives for the ultimate, which is for our freedoms. A couple weeks ago, I shared with you sort of the story of riding Joplin with my bicycle. The tension of the loss of life, but about trusting in God. And I had some good reports from my friend, Pastor Aaron Brown there at St. Paul's United Methodist on that 5th anniversary 2 weeks ago, how the community rallied and they celebrated this new sports center that's been open, and the one young man, Will Morton, the story that I told about Will, who lost his life. But you see, some of us are waiting, so I want to tie this back into Mary and Martha and what is our story this morning. And yet it never happens. Some of us maybe have been in business and it's not growing, or we've been in a relationship that's not progressing, or our health is not improving. And you know what? Our expectations aren't being met. And we end up with this prayer of saying, God, why aren't you meeting my deep needs? Why aren't you meeting my deep needs? And so I want us to see in this context that it's this, that if God always met your expectations, He'd never have the opportunity to exceed them. That's the second point. That if God always showed up and gave what you expected from Him, then He'd never have the opportunity to take what we think is good and make it better. It's interesting, and let me try with this. You see, in the scripture in John, actually on page 1215, at the bottom of the page here, it's that Lazarus is dead, and there is no hope. But when you flip the page to the next page, it starts here and says, Jesus said to her, your brother will rise again. Martha answered, I know he will rise again in the resurrection at the last day. And Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. The one who believes in me will live, even though they die, and whoever lives by believing in me will never die. You see, Mary and Martha wanted a healing. They wanted Jesus to show up, and actually, what's interesting is that what Jesus was, he didn't want a healing. He wanted a resurrection. And so sometimes what we expect from God isn't what He wants to do for us, that He actually wants to do more. See, we think we know what we want, and we know what we know is good, but what I want us to see is that God, through Jesus, wants even better for us. Sometimes God takes us through seasons, the loss of a child, the loss of a job. And in those moments, we sort of get messed up with it, thinking it's about that moment, and it actually is about how He wants us to depend upon Him. So it's interesting that Mary and Martha, we want Him to heal Lazarus, and Jesus is like, no, I'm going to resurrect him. And in fact, I'm not going to wait until I come back the second time. I'm going to show you how that works. God's plan is a far better plan. Jesus says, I am the resurrection and the life. The one who believes in me will never die. And so it's kind of amazing because Jesus said in the next scripture, it says, and when he had said this, Jesus called in a loud voice, Lazarus, come out. The dead man came out. I mean, he had to shout because dead men can't hear pretty well. Some of us can't hear anyhow, but that God actually, Jesus yells in a loud voice, Lazarus, come out. And the dead man came out. You see, God's delays are not God's denials. With God, the waiting season is never a wasted season. And sometimes it's because God's trying to do something in you before He can do something through you. And so you think about what life throws at us. We read the scriptures, and it was interesting even this week with the men's study. I've read the book of Exodus a number of times. And it was only this time that I realized that after God in Exodus chapter 20 gives the nation of Israel the laws, the 10 Commandments, that the first thing He addresses and drills down on is about how to treat the slaves. And I had never seen that before. And as I did some more research and some more study in it to prepare for our Thursday conversation, I realized that really it's about that loving God and loving others. So God has just laid out the 10 Commandments on how to love Him and how to respect other people. And then immediately, as He unpacks that for the nation of Israel, He immediately comes back and says, okay, if you have a slave, here's how I want you to treat that slave. Which, if you think about it, was a radical turn for them at that time. And so is this thing radical for us as we try to understand what God's calling us to be. This idea that wherever you may find yourself is that whether you've lost one job, that there's probably a better one coming. That if you can't conceive, as like Melinda and I walked through, that doesn't mean that you won't, or that you might not. In fact, in God's sense of humor, not only did we conceive and have Sarah, but then when Sarah was 5.5 years old, the caseworker from John Family Services came back to us and said, hey, would you open up your case plan and can we see if we can find your child? And it's like, yeah, we could do that. And so here's God's sense of humor. Melinda miscarried in January, which was a terrible thing to walk through. Unbeknownst to us, our son Jed was born in January. We just didn't know him yet. And then in August, when we took placement of Jed, we didn't know that Melinda was pregnant with Emma. Okay, because that's the way these things happen. Now, life gets crazy and you try to walk in that. And so sometimes the scene of your greatest disappointment may be the setting of your greatest miracle. And that's why we need to value all that life throws at us. Even in those moments when we are like Mary and Martha and we're on page 12, 15 and we're praying for a miracle. Because you see, God's going to show up. But now, I say that, but we also need to wrestle through the idea that there's no guarantee. This is not sort of prosperity theology. That if you just give more and serve more, that God's going to give you more. It doesn't work that way. Because we know the one thing that is true about this world is that it's not the way God intends it. And so, we may desire a better house, we may desire a better job, a better year ahead, but again, that's very Western. I've shared the stories of my traveling to Kenya, and I know that the thing about Kenyans that's not about Americans is that Kenyans were content. They were content in their poverty. They were content in knowing that what God had provided them was sufficient. And yet for us as Americans, it's that we've got to get the next new iPhone or the next new Galaxy, whatever, or the next new version of the Yukon or whatever it is. And that's not the way God wants us to understand. And so as I sort of close here, I just want us to wrestle through that understanding. That sometimes we live on 12:15, that page, where the story looks like there is no hope. As a community, as a world, as a local church, as a family, as an individual, you take your pick. And at the same time, we need to understand that God's doing something and that this is not just happening in silence, so that he can be glorified. Jesus said very clearly that he was, that God allowed Lazarus to die so that he could be glorified. And so that doesn't mean that everyone's going to get healed either. Sometimes we look for that, and there are some faith traditions that they expect that to happen every Sunday. And one of the most influential people I've read in my lifetime was a gentleman by the name of Francis Schaeffer. And Francis Schaeffer's wife, Edith, wrote a book on suffering. And in that she talked about, because they were losing their lives, that he had cancer. But sometimes we're looking for God to simply do what we call substantial healing. She talks about this idea that we want people to be healed in their soul so that there is this place for them in heaven. And the idea of an earthly, physical healing may never take place. Yet in both of those, God is glorified. And so my prayer this morning is that if you're on page 12:15 and you're not feeling like God is showing up, that just continue to feel that you would feel his presence this morning. That you need to walk back through these truths, that a waiting season is not a wasted season, that God's delays are not denials, that possibly what God's trying to do is something in you first before you do something through you. And that we need to be anticipating that God, if he did show up and gave us all that we desired, that there's no way for him to exceed them. And so part of it is in waiting. And so in that we want to trust in him. So let me pray. Father, we wrestle with these things, the realities of them, the news of a child that's been lost, a son or a daughter that's been lost in service. And we don't understand it. We know that war is just part of our earthly presence, and it's not going to go away until you return. And so I pray whatever the war we may be pushing through, spiritually, physically, emotionally, that your Holy Spirit would give us confidence that it is well with us. That our trust is in you, it's not in the things around us, that our trust is in your faithfulness, in your favor, and as we've seen in the story of Lazarus, that there's much that you still have to do in our own lives. And so I pray this morning that we would be a people that embrace that, a people that appreciate that, men and women, young and old, who wrestle with that and what that means, and that you would give us an understanding for our community within the walls of this building, and then for the community at large, how we can be your hands and feet to love others with your love. And so, Jesus, we just thank you for that, and we just pray your presence in our time this morning as we continue to worship. In your name we pray. Amen.